Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC, coming at you on a Wednesday night, Wednesday evening. No game this weekend for the Gators, so I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. If I was going to do another episode, wasn't sure how I was going to feel. I have felt like crap the last couple of days. Maybe recovering from the weekend, the game, covering the firing of Billy Napier, all the fallout from that. I do think I caught something at the same time. I don't know. I was just exhausted the last couple of days, but back on the mend, feeling a little bit better. Hopefully looking a little bit better. Honestly, I just wanted to get back together with you guys out there. I put it on Twitter a while ago, and we got to hear more from Billy Gonzalez today during the SEC teleconference and about the roles on offense. So he goes into that. I asked him a question to clarify a little bit more of that as well. So we do get some more clarification on the interim head coach Billy Gonzalez and how he sees, already a change when Ryan O'Hara going from, he told us Monday that Ryan O'Hara was going to be on the field with DJ Lagway, and now just 2 days later, Ryan O'Hara is going to be in the booth. So we get into all that right here with Billy Gonzalez on today's SEC teleconference. And then we'll get into the latest coaching rumors, all that stuff. There's just been a lot out there the last couple of days. It's only been a couple of days, and all these rumors are flying out there, of course, and we got more. We get just weeks of that coming up. So it's going to be crazy, guys, following all the coaching rumors, and this is happening and that's not happening, and this guy's a candidate, that guy's not a candidate. And of course, it all is at the top with Lane Kiffin. We all know that. Nobody's hiding behind that. From the Florida side, the Ole Miss side, the national side, it is Florida. It is Lane Kiffin. It'll be Lane Kiffin's got to tell Florida no before serious conversations going on about it. From the fan base side, go on about anybody else. We can have our second, third, fourth options here, and hopefully we're not down that list. But, and look, I know Lane's not the top for everybody either. I certainly get that. But we're not going to hide behind the fact that he is the most polarizing name around the coaching search right now for good reason. And we're going to live in that world a little bit. So that's just a reality of it. That's just the reality of it. Speaking of that, we're going to live into it even more, too. Thursday night, the next Gator panel. Gators Breakdown, High Top Sports, Stadium and Gale. We're all getting together Thursday evening, 8:35. Pretty good time to have a Gator panel, right? So we're all getting together one more time. We did right before the season. We're getting together again on Thursday. Lots to talk about. So the busy week is going to continue right here. But like I said, I wanted to get together tonight, guys. So leave some comments. Let's really get to let's try and stay on topic a little bit so I don't have to go back and forth through the chat. So give me your thoughts when we talk about the offense and changes coming up. We'll just go over that just a little bit because I know you guys want to talk to coaches and stuff, but still got a season to talk about. Still got some games to talk about. And then Billy Gonzalez speaking to the media today. So we got some new info. So let's live in that world for a little bit. And then we'll get into all the coaching rumors and talk and all that stuff, however you want to define all that. But so there's some of these at the beginning I will try and come back around to. I know they're already with the with the coaching talk, so I know I will try to scroll back up so we can get back in touch with that. So, all right. Before we do, guys, you can still bet. Florida doesn't play this week. But you can still get in on the action at MyBookie, of course. And I know a lot of you, you're not just betting Florida, you're betting NFL, all the other college games, and you can play those casino games at MyBookie as well. One account, one wallet, bet football all weekend, and when you're done betting football, you just hop right into that MyBookie casino. No switching apps, no jumping platforms, just straight up action right there. It expands on the NFL. The game lines, the player props, and more. Super contests, survivor pools. You can bet it all right there at MyBookie. And if you're new to MyBookie, use our promo code Gators and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If you make your play and it doesn't hit, you get it right back with the bet back bonus. So sign up at mybookie.ag with promo code Gators and claim your bet back bonus. All right, so let's get to it. And I'm going to play the parts of the SEC teleconference today with interim head coach Billy Gonzalez.
Next up will be Florida head coach Billy Gonzalez. The Gators are open this week prior to facing Georgia and Jacksonville on November the 1st. To ask questions for Coach Gonzalez, please use the raise hand function. And Coach, while we wait on those questions, if you could take a moment to comment on your team as you go through this week's open date.
Good morning. After the last few days, we're moving forward. I'm very confident in our players and staff to make the most of our season, starting next week with Georgia. One of the first tasks for me was organizing our offensive staff moving forward. Coach Russ Callaway will continue to oversee the offense as offensive coordinator, as he has all season long, while Ryan O'Hara will call the plays from the booth, allowing him to be next to Coach Callaway during the game. With that happening, Coach Steve Spurrier Jr. will take more of an active role, working on the field with the quarterbacks, and will also be involved with game day management, while Coach Jaluk and Coach Sale will spearhead our run game. As I move more to a managerial role for the program, Coach Chad Lucas, David Decker, and Eric Kiesau will work collaboratively with the wide receivers. Defensively, Coach Roberts and his staff have done a fantastic job this season, and the defensive staff will continue as it has all season long. As far as this week, we've begun preparation for a terrific Georgia team, and we will get back to practice later this afternoon.
Next, we have David Waters of Gators Breakdown.
Hey, Coach, I think you did just clarify it, but I do want to make sure, with the change to Ryan O'Hara in the booth, does that mean actually playing calls himself or just relaying them from Russ Callaway?
I think it's going to be a flow. I talked about Russ being our offensive coordinator, and Russ does an incredible job. He leads the offense. As I'm speaking to you now, they're in their game planning together as an offensive staff. So he's going to be heavily involved with everything that we put on paper. Russ has got the final okay on it. And I think it's just important from my standpoint where we are at right now. Again, we are in a different situation than most teams out there across the country, but Ryan O'Hara coaches DJ on a daily basis in the meeting room, and he has that voice and that relationship right now with him, with the ability to speak to the quarterback through a microphone. I want it to be familiar to DJ coming across as somebody that he's heard the voice over and over throughout meetings, throughout practice, and then on game day.
Coach, to wrap you up with Zach Aberverde of Gators Online.
Hey, Coach, just wanted to go back to Coach O'Hara moving upstairs. I know when we talked to you on Monday that you weren't sure what you guys were going to do, but you had thought that, you might have wanted him to stay on the field. What was that discussion with him about maybe why he would like to be upstairs calling plays?
Well, I think it's twofold. One, as a coach, I thought he might want to, we had talked about it prior to, and, getting that visual confirmation of getting a chance to look at the quarterback, but face-to-face in between series. But he wanted to go upstairs and thought it would give him an advantageous opportunity to see what the defense is doing. And I think it's going to actually play out pretty darn good. He'll be sitting right next to our offensive coordinator, Russ Callaway. They'll be sitting up there. They'll have a chance to converse in between series. And again, like I said, adding Coach Spurrier down below just gives us another opportunity to do that. So I think it's a win-win situation for us.
So there we go. Hopefully some clarification there. I mean, O'Hara is moving up, into the booth. That was different from what we heard on Monday. And then, I asked to clear it up a little bit, but he did still say, Russ will have final call of what they put on paper. So does that mean put on paper as a game plan or the actual play call? From what I can gather, it's going to be Ryan O'Hara calling plays. That's what he said Monday. That's what he said today. So I think we can just live in that world, I think, with some input from Russ Callaway. So I think in some ways it's still going to be a collaborative effort. They may still be trying to figure this out themselves. But it does seem like Ryan O'Hara is going to be the primary play caller, because there was the part where, Callaway's going to be doing the things that he's been doing, well, okay, Billy Napier was the primary play caller, not Russ Callaway. And if Russ Callaway's been doing what he's been doing, if he's going to be doing what he has been doing, that means not the primary play caller. So, in somewhat of a collaborative effort still, Ryan O'Hara, the primary play caller, Russ Callaway up there in the booth with him side by side. So we'll see how that works. And the mention now of Steve Spurrier Jr. on the field to be the one talking to DJ in between the drives, right there on the sideline, eye to eye, man to man. That's now the form of how the offense is going to work as a staff. So there we go. I think a little bit of clarification of how it's all going to work. But I still think there's some questions of what's this going to look like? What is this going to look like? And we'll go to James right here, who says, how much change do you think we'll see with Ryan O'Hara calling plays? Has he ever wore a headset? Well, James, just so I can get this right, if you go back and look at his bio, I mean, there's not really a lot to know about Ryan O'Hara's background before he came to Florida. He was at Louisiana there with Billy Napier as well. But prior to Louisiana, O'Hara made stops at Alabama A&M University in 2016, 2017, where he served as offensive coordinator and coached the wide receivers. Also coached quarterbacks at Mount San Antonio College and Santa Monica College there. But so OC at Alabama A&M University. So that would probably be the only time. He wore a headset and called the plays there. So I think I remember seeing it floating around the other day that the offense didn't light the world on fire. But we'll see. We'll see what changes there are when you start looking at, of course, taking over for Billy Napier. And I know a lot of people will say, well, it can't be any worse. So, I mean, it can, but we'll see what this means. We already got some word from Billy Gonzalez the other day and today as well about using the playmakers and opening up the offense a bit more. My question is going to be, do you have the ability to? And I think if Florida was fully healthy, I don't think that would be a question at all. But for Neil Brown III, as I said, we saw him in a sling after the Mississippi State game. Aiden Mizell was in a boot during that game as well. So both of those guys can't go. You are going down the depth chart a little bit. You have your Dallas Wilsons. You have J. Michael Sturdivant. So we'll see what happens. That means with the other guys. But then the other guys have got to step up. We've seen Luis Tenkara at times this year. T.J. Abrams. At time this year. Tang Hawkins, those are the guys who will be looking at to take another step now with some of those injuries, and we'll see how long those last, and maybe we'll get an update next week as there's a lot more to talk about right now, but that's going to be an integral part, I think, if they want to open it up. They want to use more playmakers. Well, those guys have got to be on the field for this offense to be able to open up, and never mind the fact you're going to be playing against Georgia after a bye week. Georgia's usually done a pretty good job against a Florida offense. Now, not last year, notwithstanding, looked like Florida was well on their way to putting up some points on Georgia until DJ Lagway goes down. You certainly know he's looking forward to this game. It's a game that he went out on last year when the hype could have been at an all-time high before we actually got it in November. For beating some really, really good teams. Could have been in Jacksonville last year if Lagway doesn't go down. So, of course, he's got this game circled in some form or fashion too. But what steps does he take? We saw him take a step after that first bye week. Is there another step in him? But I do wonder when you're missing your best playmakers when he is on the field, Aiden Mizell, and one of your best playmakers that we have seen that gets lots of snaps is Vernell Brown III. So I think there's the injuries at wide receiver are definitely going to play into it of how much I think you can open up this offense. But I still think if you can identify some things and also at the same time, I don't want to overlook Jaden Ball, one of the best running backs in college football. Probably what this means in general is maybe less Hayden Hansen. That's probably what this means in some fashion to me. Less 12 personnel. So maybe not less for him, but another tight end out there. Still going to have a tight end on the field a lot. So maybe less 12, and he's the only tight end on the field a good bit. Definitely 2 tight end sets, I would assume we're not going to see as much of. And don't get me wrong, having a tight end out there does lend itself to helping in run blocking, and that does help Jaden Ball at times. But at the same time, I think with the quarterback like this and the potential in him, I think it's still there. And if he could take another jump during this bye week and the potential at receiver, and I hope Florida gets a little bit healthier there. But I do like you too with Dallas Wilson and J. Michael Sturdivant if the other guys can't go. And then you're going to have to find another playmaker amongst the other guys. Oh, let's see. Scott just talks about, I'm assuming he's talking about Billy Gonzalez here. He just gives good answers, knows coach speak. You are not alone in that. I had a lot of people, not a lot, but I had some people reach out to me about after I posted the clip on Twitter too, of the question I asked and stuff. They were like, man, that was refreshing. It wasn't word salad. There was some actual answers there. It just, it did seem a little breath of fresh air in that regard. Scott does also say, I just like the OC is in the box and that there's some benefits there too. They really kind of spoke on that, kind of opened it up. And I'm glad they figured that out pretty early. It was like, hey, if I am going to call plays, let me be up in the booth where I feel a little bit more comfortable. Let me see the game. More value there if I'm going to be the play caller than me being beside DJ between the drives. Is that something else that, we'll look back on about another failure of Billy Napier's play calling? I mean, of course, he's dead set on being the play caller, but he's right there on the field as well. Do you get that view that you need to have to call the plays? Okay, let's see. Brian Davis says, as long as we don't see that 12 personnel, I'm good. Double J says, I'm not that hyped on Steve Spurrier Jr. Bro was fired from Tulsa. At where we're the role here, it's I don't know how much it's really worth. I don't know the scale of it here, but having him there with DJ on the sideline, okay. I'm not well versed enough to know yay or nay either way on that one. Scott does say Billy G wants to open it up, though. That's what he says. And give the ball to the wide receivers in space. So I think it can help some of these other receivers that we do know have speed and we haven't necessarily seen it yet. If some guys have to go that don't have a ton of snaps under their belt yet, maybe opening up the offense under some of those guys. Kenny Roberts says, Dave, I hear it in your voice. Still sounds like Napier's on staff with the confusion. Yeah, it's just still to me, like I probably lean as like 90% Callaway or O'Hara is the play caller. But still, the way Gonzalez answered some of that is, not completely straightforward. But I think we got enough there to know that's going to be the case. Calvin White brings up a good point. The difference with this year and last year against Georgia is we had a good second string QB. We had one. Hayden Warner was not good last year. So, Calvin, I'm not sure that's completely what you mean, but Hayden Warner was not a good second string quarterback last year. Oh, well, okay. Well, unless you're counting DJ as the second string with Mertz being first string. Maybe that's the way you're going with it. But DJ started the game, so that's how I look at it. I'm a little confused there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that the wrong way. Kenny Roberts does bring up a good point. Dave, where's Montgomery? Not sure. I haven't heard a whole lot. I don't know if he's injured or not. I mean, I forgot about Trey Wilson. I don't know how I forgot about his name earlier. Of course, I expect a larger role from Trey Wilson if he's healthy, ready to go. I still don't know if he's completely come around on the injury from last year and asking around a little bit. Healthy enough to play. And I still thought would be, since that first bye week, I mean, he's been pretty absent in the stat category. But now with this renewed sense of optimism on offense that you want to open it up a bit more and spread some players out, Trey Wilson should be a benefactor of that. How I forgot him, I will never know. I think I was just trying to go down the depth chart a little bit to see which guys could, but given his production lately, he throw him in that category too. And I guess that's a question that we're probably going to be asking ourselves too. With this change, what players do kind of rebound a little bit and maybe we have forgotten about or take advantage of this situation? Is Trey Wilson one of those? He might be the top of that list. Might be the top. Aiden Mizell would be next for me, but it does really, and honestly, part of his issue, and I know we question a little bit, it really is he can't stay healthy. But Montgomery's a good one too. I'll maybe ask around on him. He's got some games he can still play as far as redshirt goes. So, okay, let's see. Lucky Chucky 3000. What are the chances that Billy G opens up the doors to the alumni? I mean, Billy didn't really shut it, or both guys are Billy, right? Napier didn't really shut the doors to the alumni. I don't really know, the value of that in the season right now as you're the interim coach and you got a lot on your plate right now. I'm pretty sure the last thing he's thinking about is who to open the door for. But maybe so. But I've seen guys on the sideline a lot in recent years. DJ Stan Club, I really like these changes. It reminds me of when Joe Brady was in the booth for Joe Burrows last season. Well, let's see first now. I'm not putting a Ryan O'Hara on a Joe Brady caliber anywhere near it right now. So we'll see. We will see. I see it in the comment. Dweebert thinks, I don't even know if I said it earlier. Hey, everybody, smash that like button. That really helps us out, of course. And subscribe right here on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform if you haven't done so yet. What are you waiting on? There's going to be a lot of episodes coming up. A lot of episodes. Football, coaching rumors, all that stuff. All that stuff. Adam, do we think Billy G tried to get Napier to change some things and he was just stubborn? I don't know. I haven't heard of anything like that. So, Strickland said him and Napier had the conversations about it. So, obviously, and look, the media asked him about it a lot too. So, obviously, he knew the narrative was out there, and he still stuck to his guns anyway. And DJ Stan Club, one more time. These are the type of things that are why I trust someone like Coach Gonzalez to have the intuition needed of what works and what doesn't. I mean, this is new, guys. I don't know what to think. I have no idea. And the good thing about that, though? Neither does Georgia. Georgia doesn't have any tendencies on what this offense is about to look like. Now, this is not going to be a completely new offense. You're going to live in the maybe more open up parts of this offense. But it's going to largely be the same offense. And like I said, you don't want to forget about Jaden Ball. You still want Jaden Ball to get the ball a lot. But tendencies, liking certain calls in certain situations, the predictability of it all, the slate is clean. The slate is clean for Ryan O'Hara, for Russ Callaway, for Billy Gonzalez. You can. There's an opportunity here. Now, Georgia starts games bad off anyway. Georgia's a second half team this year. And there's the opportunity because of all the newness of this. Can you score enough points early against Georgia to where if they make that second half run again, that you've maybe got a gap there? There's an opportunity for that because given the surprises that you are going to have now. Georgia has no idea what's coming at them. I mean, that could be a good thing. I mean, that part in itself is a good thing. But it's up to this now new look offensive staff to come up with something to take advantage of that. It's there. Now you have to take advantage. Let's see. I see some comments there about getting Trammell some snaps. And hey, look, I mean, maybe now with an interim staff, if Lagway has a bad showing, that they won't be so married to the idea of sticking with Lagway. Like I said, I do think there was some value in, especially dating back to the LSU game when you throw in 5 interceptions. Sit him down for a drive. Sit him down for a drive or two and calm your quarterback down. They didn't decide to do that, but I do at the same time think there was some value in letting him work out of it. Missed so many snaps. Every snap is precious in some way, even if it's ugly. You hope he learns from it. But now you're far enough into the season where, first of all, there's a coaching change now. You don't have to be married to the idea. Try some things that are different. And if it's ugly for DJ Lagway, maybe Trammell does get some run. Brad Dugan, I didn't see the argument between Pat Dooley and Jeff Cardozo, so I don't know. Joey Kroll, I guess. Are we going to address the defensive issue in the secondary middle that is a severe concern? I mean, you got a bunch of young guys playing back there now, but in some ways, I mean, Alfonso Allen, from what he showed, I mean, I think what he put on tape is some of the things we wish we would have saw from Jordan Castell. I mean, so if you're talking about secondary in the middle of the secondary, that's your safeties. And in some ways, Alfonso Allen, once he got his feet under him a little bit, did some good things. Bryce Thornton's still out there. Now, if you want to talk about outside and corner, where you may not have a Devin Moore or Cormani McClain, Dijon Johnson's already hurt, and you're relying on a bunch of young guys. Yes, that's a concern. But the secondary middle, nah. Yeah, it can be a concern, I guess, but not more so than the corners that are out there and that are young. But I like what I saw from a young freshman like Lagonza Hayward at safety. And Sharif Denson, got injured as well. So you're playing a bunch of freshmen now that just have to grow up. There were some ups and downs there against Mississippi State. That's the Jeff Lebby offense that can take advantage. And you best bet Mike Bobo and that Georgia offensive staff, they're looking at that as well. So it is a concern with all the injuries. Can you get anybody back, specifically like a Devin Moore and get a Cormani by the time Georgia rolls around? I think you can. We'll see what that means, but I don't. Devin Moore, I saw an image where I think it was an Instagram image basically saying he was good. Don't know if that means what the timeline is, but it doesn't seem major. And maybe Cormani's back as well. Let's see. All right. Probably enough on that. Thanks for all the other comments, guys, that I haven't got to on that. But I know what a lot of you have come for. And that's some coaching talk. But before we get there, I mean, let's talk about my friends at Gator Drywall of Duval. The Gators are getting a new look at some point. It's going to be a new look anyway. With Billy Napier not roaming the sideline, Billy Gonzalez taking over, a new look coming for a new head coach next year. But the Gators are getting that new look, and just like the Gators, my home has that new look too. Gator Drywall of Duval has transformed my living space after dealing with those oh-so-dated, those unsightly popcorn ceilings, those annoying drywall cracks that just, happen after time. My walls are looking smoother, my ceiling looking more modern, and that's thanks to the guys at Gator Drywall of Duval. Brandon and his team there, they brought back that personal dedication that's just kind of missing in the service industry these days. They got the precision there. They've been patching holes, repairing cracks, removing those outdated textures throughout my home. Well, if your house needs that same kind of transformation, don't hesitate to call the true professionals at Gator Drywall of Duval. If you're around the Jacksonville area, give them a call, 904-793-2088, or contact them at gatordrywallofduval.com. All right, let's get to just kind of the coaching rumors that are out there. Good bit of stuff, of course. And Scott says he's hearing Kiffin, Brom, Eli. Those are the names that we hear a lot of out there. First, for some of this, and we'll get to just kind of everything about Kiffin lately and the extension at Ole Miss, and is he gonna sign one? Is he not gonna sign one? Has he agreed to one? And it's just now just going to be a matter of time before it's announced. Why would he right now? Him and Jimmy Sexton hold all the cards for Florida, for Ole Miss. There's no need for him to agree to a contract right now with Ole Miss. And who knows if he will or not, but there's no need for him to right now. He even said it earlier this week. That's for another time. But you can best bet, we saw it last week, that Ole Miss's AD was coming out and saying, yeah, we're working on it. We're going to make you one of the highest paid coaches in college football. Well, Florida's going to as well. Believe me, the deal Florida's going to offer is going to make him one of the college football's highest paid coaches. So you won't be the only ones. And look, I'm sure Ole Miss would love to get the deal done like Kurt Cignetti in Indiana. But right now, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening with Lane making a decision to sign an extension right now. And I know it seems like they've backed off of that a little bit on the Ole Miss side, that one had been done or was close to being done. And there's been just so much conversation. Why would Lane take the job over? Why would he take the Florida job over Ole Miss? Well, I mean, we know. We rehash it all. The history in the state of Florida. Layla, his wife, family, her dad, John Reeves, Gator royalty there, a house in Boca. I mean, and then for the football side of it, I still believe it. Maybe it's orange and blue glasses. You can still build a more consistent winner here at Florida than you can Ole Miss. And I've said it before. I heard Shane Matthews say it. The reason the job is so good right now at Ole Miss is because of Lane Kiffin. It's because of Lane Kiffin. You give me 100 coaches out there, and you poll 100 of them, all 100. I'm guessing here, but 85, 90 of them say Florida. Now, Ole Miss certainly can lure Lane Kiffin because he's already been there. And maybe he does get caught up in what he's building there, and more power to him. But I would think from a neutral coach, 100 of them, Florida or Ole Miss. Maybe it's my orange and blue glasses, but 85, 90 of them are picking Florida. That's my opinion on it all. And I saw Silk put this out today, or Corey, from Stadium and Gale. And it's so funny because it crossed my mind too. And the reason it crossed my mind, because it was just talking and the thought of Kiffin going to the NFL and what a storyline that would be, why we think sticking at Ole Miss or going to Florida, or what if LSU opens up and it's the NFL Kiffin would ultimately choose. And that crossed my mind too. And the reason that crossed my mind too, because it got me thinking of the Jaguars here making a head coaching move last year. And there were whispers of Lane Kiffin here in Jacksonville, and coming back to the NFL, and with the Jaguars job being open, that's, maybe he would take that job. So, and look, and I know there's been some talk that he would be interested in going back to the NFL. What I don't know is if he would go back to the NFL over Florida. I know at one time Lane Kiffin would have crawled on glass to get the Florida job. as soon as last year when Florida hired Billy Napier. Lane Kiffin would have taken it. He would have crawled on glass, like I said. No doubt about it. Yes, I do think having some success at Ole Miss has changed some things. Ultimately, I think he would pick Florida. I saw the comment here, what would I do? I still stick like with 70%? Yeah, that's probably where I'm at right now with it. I said that on a show Monday. I did so many shows on Monday, I kind of forgot. But yeah, just talking. He asked me, are you still 70% on Kiffin coming here, Dave? Yeah, that's about where I'm at with it. If you're telling me I have to go to Vegas, and Dave, all right, you gotta put down some money. You have no choice to. Well, that's where my money would be going. And that's what, I mean, Vegas is you play your best odds, right? And that's how I would view my best odds. We all know that doesn't mean it's going to happen. But that's just where it stands for me. And I forget the guy's name. But if we keep going through some of the rumors that are out there that, yeah, let me pull it up. I don't want to misattribute here. But I forget. I thought it would come up as a top tweet, but maybe not. Oh yeah, Nanduri NFL. Per multiple sources, Florida's preferred coach was Marcus Freeman. It is now Lane Kiffin, or you go into the abyss and hope to grab onto something that can save you. Basically saying preferred coach was Marcus Freeman, and Marcus Freeman turned it down. Well, and I think there was somewhere in there that Marcus Freeman was the top choice. No, right? Marcus Freeman, a top choice, not the top choice. And I don't know for sure if that is true, whether he's been talked to and has already turned it down. And even if he has, I don't care. You go back to Nick Saban at the Dolphins. And you know what? When Alabama came calling the first time, he said no. And he maybe even told him no a second time. I know he told him no once. But you know what? Where did he ultimately end up? He ended up going back to Alabama anyway. So a first no doesn't really mean a whole lot. But I do think Marcus Freeman is a top choice, not the top choice. A top choice for some in the building. Sure, absolutely. The top choice overall? No. Can't go there. Junior says, hey, Junior, thanks for the super chat here. Ole Miss fans losing their minds 3 days into the coach search. We got a ways to go. I tell you, man, they certainly seemed a lot more confident a couple days ago than they do now. And I've perused their message boards. I've seen the talk. And there was a lot of talk of being very confident that a deal would get done, that a deal was very close to getting done. And that has calmed down even from their side now. They are not as confident as they were. And that's why I think you've seen some of their fan base back off a little bit. They're reading the same message boards I'm reading on their side. And then you got a lot of people coming out as well on the national side and saying, yeah, we think Lane Kiffin would go to Florida. Now, there's some who are, of course, out there downing Florida. I can't stand Tim Rando, but him out there calling his fan base toxic, he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. He's way past his prime anyway, but his continued shots at Florida are a joke to me. But so you got the other side of it out there too, that will defend Ole Miss's side about this whole Lane Kiffin sweepstakes. But I think most out there have it trending towards Florida. But we'll see. We will see what happens if Lane. I don't think it's completely done. What happens if Lane keeps winning at Ole Miss? Does each win kind of cement something in him where it proves that he can be very successful there? To me, he can be successful there. I just think you can be more successful at Florida. I don't know if you can live in the transfer portal the way they have to there. Credit to them for doing it successfully so far. I don't know if you can live in it that much with consistent results. Maybe you can. It's still very early in the process of building your team through the transfer portal each and every season. So maybe they can there. Maybe they know a better way of doing it than somebody like Florida State. But I do know you come to Florida, you get to cherry pick in the transfer portal. You can recruit very well. I mean, just look what he'd be walking into if he came to Florida and most of the roster stayed intact. Now, I'm not naive enough to think, now this goes for any head coach, honestly, but I'm not naive enough to think that some guys aren't going to leave. But you do have a core of a DJ Lagway, a Dallas Wilson, a VB3, a Jaden Ball that you would be walking into day one. And you know what? DJ Lagway recruited. VB3 recruited. Dallas Wilson recruited. Jaden Ball recruited. Okay? That shows the potential of getting the guys here at Florida. Any head coach that comes in can do the same thing. Then you get to go cherry pick from the portal. You don't have to go, get your quarterback out of the portal. You don't have to go get your skill players out of the portal. Or most of your skill players. Most of your defensive stars out of the portal. You can home grow a lot of them. And then if a guy doesn't work out here or there, you can go cherry pick in the portal. The Ohio State way, the Bama way, the Georgia way. It's still the teams that are still the most consistent. Now, has college football caught up? Sure they have. Sure they have. Ole Miss beat Georgia last year. Ole Miss gave Georgia all they could handle last week. No doubt about it. But there's still the teams that I think when it comes down to the playoff, they're going to have the rosters that can withstand the hits after hits, week after week. Just how I view why I think the Florida job can be a better fit for a coach like Lane Kiffin. Sean Smith, if it is Lane, how does that impact our starting quarterback next year? Will it still be DJ, Tramel Jones, Griffin, or Portal? I wonder who Lane would prefer. I don't see him, if it is Lane, as you said, I don't see him starting Griffin as a true freshman. Wouldn't put it past him, but I don't think Lane would live in that world. I do think there would be a heavy conversation with DJ Lagway. And what about DJ Lagway's health? How does that play into it all? Will there be an offseason surgery or something like that? Yeah, I mean, I think you talk to all the quarterbacks that are on the roster. I mean, okay, not all of them. A DJ and a Tramel and Griffin in the class. I mean, Griffin seems like he's going to be a Gator no matter what, and especially if Lane comes, because you got a quarterback guru at coach. So obviously, I think he'd be very interested in staying. But I don't think he started true freshman. I would not put it past Lane once a conversation with I think Lagway is the first conversation. I don't think Lane would come in and say automatically, I'm bringing my own guy. No, I think his first inclination would be to go talk to DJ Lagway. Now, because of the dip in play this year, and I understand that injuries play a part of it, and because of injuries, you may bring a guy anyway. You may bring in a guy anyway. I don't know what level you bring that guy in. Is it's a high level transfer and it's a straight up competition with DJ Lagway, or it's somebody Lane has identified like a Trinidad for Ole Miss. Now I don't even know if Lane thought this guy would be that good, but he certainly identified him. Bringing somebody at that level that, okay, he's identified, and then you bring that guy in and have the competition there. There's a lot of ways it can go, but I do think it is first choice, talk to Lagway and come up with some sort of plan for him to be the guy. That's how I think it starts. Okay, let's see. Let's get into some more right here. Some of these will take care of itself, and some talking points I was going to have. Sorry, guys. So this will be a little bit of quiet till I find the until I find the topics here. Finch, is Strickland going to take Lane seriously? All the talk, he has never liked him. Yes, he will take Strickland seriously. Or Strickland will take Lane seriously. I have no doubt in my mind. That is not a worry for me at this point. In the past, yes, it may have been. I think a lot of people are on the same page in this one. Okay, let's see. Now, maybe. Devin, do you think we have a coach before December? Ooh, man, this weekend comes in large for that. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Ole Miss loses that, it gives them 2 losses. And then they're fighting for a college football playoff spot at that point. We're in a tricky situation, right? So now a lot of people will do this. Let's stay on the Lane train here just for a second. Do you think we have a coach before December? If you want it to be Lane for absolutely sure, they need to go 9-3 or worse. But I don't think in that Ole Miss 9-3 makes the playoff. So just say it's Lane. There's going to be a lot of people who say, "Oh, he's got 3 losses. Why would we want him?" This was supposed to be a down year for Ole Miss anyway. And never mind the fact they're playing with a backup quarterback now as well. And here we are going into late October, and they're still in the conversation. Now, out-of-conference schedule is not the strongest. They beat an okay LSU team that beat Florida. That's their best win so far. Played Georgia very good last week in some ways and let up a lot of points, but Georgia also let up a lot of points. That was just an offensive game. That's another thing, a hit on Kiffin that I've seen lately. Oh, he don't care about defense. Did you see their defense last year? One of the best defenses in the country. So don't sit here and say he's never had good defenses or has never cared about defenses. That's a weak argument. I know this is seeming like a whole of defensive Lane Kiffin right now. I've already mentioned his warts so far. Yes, there is the overall record of ranked teams. How many is he beaten? There's not a lot of ranked wins. Well, there's not a lot of ranked wins out there for outside of the best coaches out there anyway. So that's how we'll live in that world. But anyway, going back to the question. If Ole Miss finishes 9-3, it's going to be a lot of people. Why would you want a coach that just lost 3 games? I think that's about where Ole Miss was going to be this year anyway. And if you had told me preseason Florida's going to be looking for a coach and Ole Miss finished 9-3, fine with me. Okay. But then I'll look at how this season played out and going with the backup quarterback. Okay. Even more of a feather in the cap for Lane. But you need, if he's your guy, then I think they get to be 9-3 for sure to have a coach in before December. If Eli's your guy, same scenario almost here. Big game against, crazy enough, big game against Vanderbilt this weekend between Missouri and Vanderbilt for a possible college football playoff spot on the line down the road. Both these teams need the victory here. So same thing about him. Same thing about Marcus Freeman, already with 2 losses. Notre Dame's got to lose 1 more if he's your guy. Jeff Brom, Louisville, they're in the ACC. If he's your guy, you still could be fighting if they're going to make a playoff or not before you try to get him in. So a lot of the options that we want here are, in the playoff conversation, which that means you're going at, because you're going after good coaches. You're not going after bad coaches. So, of course, they're going to be in the college football playoff race. So, just as the ball's going to have to bounce the right way here. Yeah, couldn't get that out. So, it's really hard to know. If I had to answer, I am so torn on Oklahoma and Ole Miss this week. I think I'm leaning Oklahoma. So, that gives Ole Miss a second loss. I don't know where Ole Miss's 3rd loss comes from. I do think there's a chance they could get shut out with 2 losses because of their schedule. They might sneak in. So, Devin, given the thought of the Lane train, and that it might, since I lean him as being the next head coach, do I think we have a coach before December? Man, I don't know. I just don't know. I'll play along and just say Ole Miss barely gets in. They're one of the last teams in with 2 losses. So no, I don't think before December. So then you're talking about needing to lose in the first round of the playoff, and that's what, like December 18th, 19th? So you're looking at just past midway of December. I would love for it to work out. It would not deter me whatsoever, and it would even be weird if Florida was the 3rd loss for Ole Miss this year. But I would not feel any different whatsoever than I do right now about Lane Kiffin being the guy if Ole Miss ends up 9-3. Noidzor says, why do people ever think Freeman would leave for the NFL? They say recruiting is easier in Florida, but he's out-recruited at Notre Dame every year besides 2025. Sure, it's easier, but his schedule at Notre Dame is easier too. Well, that's part of the problem, Noidzor, of getting rid of Billy Napier. First of all, with play calling. Second of all, your recruiting, it was good. Don't get me wrong. It was good. Had your best class last year. You were still outside of the top 10 every recruiting class except last year. So that's part of the reason too. There was still another step in recruiting. And that, like I said, that is part of the problem. You have schools that are out recruiting Florida that necessarily shouldn't be. Now, can Notre Dame have a year or two where they do? Sure. Not saying that. They're still a big program, but as you're saying, every year besides 2025, yeah, that's an issue. That is an issue. Get us a head coach in here that can be better than that. Or at least get to the point now in this new look college football that can prove that you can hover around 10 and then go. That's still good if you can supplement with the portal, not live in the portal, supplement in the portal. But also, to the question, why did people ever think Freeman would leave for Florida? There were some rumors behind the scenes that he was interested last year. And all the talk that Billy might be going last year. So that's where I think a lot of that came from. Adam says you can bet on Lane Kiffin as the next Florida coach. Brian, everyone's saying Drink gonna be the guy. Don't know how to feel. I just want a coach that leading us to win and long-term success. I know, man. Drink is a weird one to discuss with the fan base. I think most are against it. I do wonder if, just say Lane was not even on the table. If Lane Kiffin didn't even exist, what would the thought about Drink be then? I think that does play a lot into it. I've come around on it a little bit more, but I will say I'm not in love with the idea. I do like the assistants that he's hired. I do like Kirby Moore at OC. Big fan of Blake Baker when he was at Missouri, and then when he's done at LSU and turning around that defense. His willingness to adapt when he brought in Kirby Moore, realized that the game of football was changing, that he did not need to be a play caller head coach, a la Billy Napier. Napier hung on for dear life. It cost him his job. Eli saw that. Eli made a change. He brought in an offensive coordinator, and the offense actually got better. So not only did he see the writing on the wall, he saw the writing on the wall that, hey, you know what? This is probably will work out to, not only does it relieve some responsibility for myself, it can actually make the offense better. And it has there at Ole Miss. So he's been shown a willingness to adapt, and he's hired good assistants. Same question for him as it is for Lane Kiffin in a sense, but Lane Kiffin actually did beat Georgia last year, has beaten LSU. Drinkwitz still looking for some big wins. Beat kind of in that James Franklin category now of beating the teams he's kind of supposed to beat, but not winning the big one. That's where some of you are concerned there. And then I know people will say culture fit. identity fit, that he may not kind of fit into Florida, just a quote-unquote poor man's Jim McElwain. I've seen that out there a little bit. Something that could come into play here. Some talks now, Penn State might be interested in Eli Drinkwitz. So I think Penn State, the other angle to all this coaching stuff is all the other jobs that are open are going to be open. So Penn State, Eli Drinkwitz, might be some competition if he's going to end up being your guy that you have to fight off another school for. Okay, so let me go. Bunch of comments. Okay, I knew this was going to happen, guys. So, serving, man, I can't even hardly say that name. It's all coming together. Brom or bust. I have liked him. Obviously, it does. The timing of it all makes it seem like, hey, he beat Miami last week. He wasn't on nobody's list up until then. Well, guys, I told you I wasn't really talking hot. I wasn't really talking list and big boards until Napier got fired. Brom has always been like in the top 10 of mine. Great game day play caller. And from asking around, is very well thought of in the state of Florida. Can actually beat Miami. Brom now would probably be like in my top 5. There might be somewhere in here. Look, I do think there might be some legs to the whole Freeman thing of staying at Notre Dame. He was my number 2 option, so I'll just say I'll keep him there. So Kiffin 1, Freeman 2. Went over earlier this week. I'm a big Kenny Dillingham fan at Arizona State. Dillingham 3. Brom 4. Lashley 5. Might be my top 5 right now. 3, 4, 5. You can kind of interchange. A lot of people will probably ask where James Franklin is. It's just a hard sell to me, especially with Lane Kiffin being there. And look, if Lane Kiffin doesn't come, it's going to be because he told Florida no. It's not going to be because Scott Strickland messed it up. Scott Strickland didn't pursue. A certain booster didn't want him. It is not going to be that. It's going to be because Lane Kiffin told Florida no. So then you got to go down the list. And to me, if that's the case, because we will have known that Lane Kiffin told Florida no, and then the backup plan is to go hire a fired coach, that the optics do not look great for me. They still may be fine for you. I'd have a hard time swallowing that. I do think James Franklin can be a good coach. I do. But I am certainly going to ask my question with his best team, a lot like Billy Napier. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about just this year in a bubble. James Franklin, much better coach than Billy Napier. But this year in a bubble, you can make the comparison. Both guys had their best team and fell flat on their face. James Franklin had his best team. Maybe we thought was his best team. His best team was actually last year's team. But in bringing back so many pieces, this was supposed to be a national title run team. And they are terrible. He ends up getting fired for it. That is a hard sell for me. I do think James Franklin, if he did get the job, he'd be good. I just think we'd still be asking the same questions Penn State was asking of taking the next step. Dun, 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 dun. I do think, and I know some of the reports out there have said this too, it is going to be throwing Marcus Freeman's name in there. You would have noticed that he's the only defensive coach. I do think it's going to be an offensive coach when this is all said and done. I know Florida does really not want to go the up-and-comer route. They don't want to go back to the group of, 6 is it now? So Summerall, Tulane, Golish at USF. Florida would have to have missed on a few people to even get there. That is not in the current plans. Hemster brings up a good point. There is no exact science to this. Hiring a head coach is sports gambling. That is a good way of putting it. Freakville Gator, Brian Johnson. No, I'm good. I like Brian Johnson. Glad what he did for Florida. No, I am not hiring a first-time guy for the situation Florida is in. Oh, so this is the arguments I just cannot get behind. Malice in society. What has Freeman proven? Plays the easiest pick-me schedule in the country every year. Both coaches before him did the exact same thing. He did win some playoff games last year. Had to beat some good teams on the way to get there. But if you're going to sit here and say, what has Freeman proven? Besides Ryan Day, besides Kirby Smart, besides Dabo Swinney, what has anybody proven? You are not getting the perfect coach. You are not getting an Urban Meyer. Even if do you want to go to lower level? Do you want to find somebody who might, be that? Nobody's going to be that this year anyway. There's going to be no undefeated group of 6 school that has a head coach that had the resume Urban Meyer had to bring up from the lower ranks. I mean, that was about as perfect as you're going to get to bring up. That's not happening. Ryan Day's not coming. Kirby Smart, you really want to hire a bulldog? No. Was he coming anyway? No. Dabo Swinney, forget about it. I don't want him roaming the sidelines of Florida. What has anybody out there besides those guys proven? You're not getting a proven guy. You're not. You know what I mean? So I don't get that argument of what has Freeman proven. What has Lane proven? What has Braun proven? What has Dillingham proven? You're not getting Dan Lanning. He hasn't really proven anything either, besides winning the Big Ten. Freeman actually making it to the national title final game last year was just as impressive as Dan Lanning winning the Big Ten last year. You're not getting anybody proven. So that argument, and look, I'm not really trying to jump on you at all. It's just I've heard that argument a lot, and I don't get that argument. There's nobody there. Malice in Society brings up a good point. Lane has proven he can turn a program around. Freeman has only proven he can maintain the exact thing the coaches before him did. There's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. He did take recruiting up a level at Notre Dame. It's not an exact science, though. Okay, let's see. Panhandle Rob opened the bank for Lanning. Alpha Gator, hey Dave, was there any truth to Urban being a candidate? I've seen that out there too. Nobody has told me that I absolutely trust. The Tubus Signetti was lower level. Yes, he was. I'm talking about somebody now. Florida can't afford to go that route. Florida can't afford to guess. Good for Indiana. They guessed right. But I guarantee you poll anybody in that building when they hired Curt Signetti, that they'd be in this position right now. Not even they would have said that. None of them. Scott brings up a good name I did want to get into. Lincoln Riley thoughts. Revising the list a little bit, yeah, he might be top. he'd be in the top 5, 6. Don't get me wrong. I get the questions. There are a lot of questions. Compare his resume with some of the other guys out there, though. Okay. I mean, it's up there. There's some thoughts he just wants out of LA. Not necessarily wants out of USC, but just wants out of the town of LA. There's some thoughts that are going around about that. And some of that even whispered last year, but are even, and maybe because of what is going to be a crazy coaching carousel, it's coming out a little bit more that he just may not be happy in LA. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for Florida, for other schools out there, but I'd say maybe worth keeping an eye on. I think you do have to miss on some people before I get there. I don't think you'd have to, especially in the state of Florida, I don't think you have to worry about offense. Defense is going to continue to be the question. You know, they've made changes at USC. They've brought in talent to try to fix that. It is better than what it was, but it's still not at the level it needs to be to go win the Big Ten. So that question is still out there. Sean, thank you once again, man. Lane number 1 for me, Sean says. Argument for Franklin, though, cheaper than Lane. Similar record. One drive away from playing for the championship game last year. All candidates have flaws. Yep. Florida plus good hires around him equal title. You can make the argument. You making that argument right there? I can't argue against it. I do think he'd have to really sell the administration on wanting to open up the offense. Scott Strickland had those conversations with Billy Napier. You're not going to want to have the conversations with the next guy as well. Now, I will give Franklin some credit. For whatever reason, it did not work out with Kolonicki, the offensive coordinator that he brought in, that everybody wanted a couple cycles ago. So why didn't it work? Was it Franklin hamstringing the offense, handcuffing the offense in some ways? Or did it just not work? Well, if it just didn't work, that's an issue in and of itself as well. Did you not develop the talent for that system? Did you not have the talent for the system? They attacked the transfer portal to try and get better wide receivers this past year. It still didn't work. You had a returning quarterback. It still didn't work. Drew Adler regressed. So, man, he is going to have to sell that, hey, here at Florida, I believe I can do it this way, and we are going to do it this way. Like I said, I do think he can be good. But that question of great, and that's going to be out there for all of them, I get it. I've got to tell myself that. But good argument there, Sean. Good argument there. As you can tell, if it's super chat, I am definitely going to get to it, but there are a lot of comments. This is what I wanted to do for this episode, so I knew it was going to be this way. But I wanted to talk with you guys. I mean, there's a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about. I've always tried to build this platform with the viewer interaction and listener interaction. I'm going to continue to try and do that. Mr. Bassman says, Dave, it's Lane or bust, right? What say you? Yes, for me. I just think he's just the best fit for Florida. On the field, off the field, moxie, confidence, style of offense, great with quarterbacks. This thing checks a lot of boxes. G-Trey G3 does ask a good question. Does an interim president and Scott as AD make things more difficult when it comes to this search and landing top candidates? From what I can gather, that would not be the case. There is a big move that is heading in the right direction of getting everybody on the same page for this. We all talked about what were we talking about exactly a week ago today? Booster meeting between Scott Strickland and a booster. What do you think that meeting was about? As I said it last week, getting on the same page. First of all, when to move on from Billy Napier. Second of all, what do you need? And let's all get on the same page for what do you need. So, no, from everything I can gather, this is going to be everybody moving in the same direction. Now, some people might have reservations on who to hire. I do, like I said, I do think in the building, Lane Kiffin, Marcus Freeman, the top two. Some have, I believe, no allegiance to one or the other and will support one or the other. And I don't think it's going to be, I don't think there's going to be much infighting on who to go after. Overwhelmingly, I think even more so it leans in the Lane Kiffin direction. So that's a positive. Go get it done. And are we really seeing ridiculous comments of Tim Tebow as head coach? Yeah, I know not to take you serious. Yeah, I've seen some of that comments from that same person, and there's ridiculous comments all throughout the chat, so that's fine. DJ Stan Club, this is not really serious either. Billy Gonzalez has a resume better than anyone you've mentioned. Who was it who made Urban's pass game look so good? Yeah. I don't even know if I really should have acknowledged that one. Okay, let me scroll up some more and then try to get back to where I know I missed some. And then we'll go sign off. So a few more minutes here. Thanks for everybody joining me. What time is it? 8:29. Then my friends at High Top. We're about to get ready to go live too. So Nathaniel Rogers, Lane staff hasn't proven that his staff can develop. Well, that's where I said recruiting has come into question. They have to hit the portal. Austin Simmons, question. Lane recruited him away from Florida, got hurt. Trinidad has played good. So we haven't really seen the development of Austin Simmons. But like I said, that is worth a question. And they are doing what they have to do to win games, and that is attack the transfer portal. So you're right. Overall, yeah. Shark Attack brings up a good, and I thought about this too. Lane losing to Florida is the best excuse for him thinking it's the better job. Yep. If you can't beat them, join them. And with that, yeah, all right, I see the talent on that team. Let me go make that talent consistent. Yep. There was another comment by Neo right there. Yep. That is a troll at best. So I'm not even going to put the comments up there. Guys, do not believe the Lane and Gainesville rumors today. He's got a game coming up this week. There was an SEC teleconference today. He was on it. No. No. I do not like the comment of another Dan Mullen. No. Lane at Ole Miss, better, consistent than Mullen was at Mississippi State. As I said, a really, really good defense last year. All right. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Oh, Benton O'Neill. Lane Kiffin has never won nothing. He's just a popular name. You're not getting anybody who's won something. It's that easy. It's that easy. I just don't get that argument at all. Adam, can't wait to only have one O-line coach again. Okay, good stuff, guys. I see it too. Adam, I see you put that up there. I see many say they don't want Lane coming to Florida. I see it too. I just see it the other way a lot of time. It was mostly Lane Kiffin. Dan Mullen had Mississippi State as number one team once upon a time. Yeah, and they did not finish that season as well as they should have. And if I'm not mistaken, that was 2014, right? Wasn't Ole Miss number 2 with Hugh Freeze at the time? That was a funny storyline. I think they were 1 and 2 or something like that year. But like I said, and my mark was consistency. Lane has been more consistent. Mullen would have a good year at Mississippi State and then a downfall, and then a good year and then a bad year. It was, ebbs and flows to it. Black Pine Labs. Lane has won the one thing that matters, our hearts. Oh, yeah. And let me go to that, too. DJ Stancler brings up a good point. Same here. I wanted Mullen when we hired McElwain. Me, too. That Mullen was my top choice. Well, he was, for sure. I just think, some guys need the right opportunity, right place. And I just think it's a good marriage between Florida and Lane Kiffin. Look, I'm open to the other guys. I mean, it would be a bit of a hit if it wasn't Lane. But I have said before, this thing is an inexact science. We've talked sitting head coaches, and I think that's the way Florida really, really, really wants to go. I'm big if Florida somehow, some way has to, for whatever reason, goes a coordinator route. Go get me Will Stein at Oregon. Maybe he can replicate what Kenny Dillingham's doing at Arizona State, hopefully at another level because you're at Florida. I still believe Florida can be Florida. Still believe it with all my heart. Get the right guy in place. We can do some dangerous things. Is Lane Kiffin the only guy out there that can do good things? No, he's not. He's the one I feel better about doing those things. But there are definitely other guys out there that can do it. Just got to make the right hire. And it's hard to do. It is very hard to do. None of us saw Dan Lanning taking Oregon to those steps that he has. And he was a coordinator. Cignetti coming from James Madison to Indiana. Nobody saw that coming. Lashley and SMU. We'll see how that keeps going, maybe. Or he leaves. Dillingham in Arizona State. We'll see. Key in Georgia Tech. I mean, there's good coaches out there. You got to get the good fit. Got to get the good fit. And that's hard to know. That is hard to know. All right, everybody. That will do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. I'm your host, David Waters. You can find me on social media at GatorDave_SEC. Thanks for getting back in touch right here, chat-wise on YouTube. All these comments, thank you so much. But that will do it for this episode of Gators Breakdown. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode, and we'll do it again later.